Hello guys, today we'll discuss about Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Architecture, sometimes called as OCI architecture. Before starting with OCI architecture, let me introduce myself. My name is Ambasa, carrying 20-year experience. I'm a founder of Alchemist and also I'm a certified in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Architect professional as well as Oracle Autonomous Database Cloud Specialist. Let's start with noting down the terminology. Once you enter into your journey with OCI, we call it as Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. The terminology you have to start with the noting down is first one is regions. The regions is the outer layer. Inside that we do have a availability domain. This is the second point. And the third would be the fault domains. The 3 points we have to remember. That's what we will be discussing in today's architecture. And in this regions point of view, now how do you go ahead and understand what exactly the regions, how many regions we have, and what is the way we have to select the regions. So what all the point to be considered before going ahead with the selecting the regions. So if I go with just giving some example, you can see from the Oracle website, they clearly mentioned that there are 50 commercial, governments, and so on and so forth, the regions we have. That's just a count as per the Oracle website. And if I go with here, the directly going to my console, let me just log into my console. This is the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure console login. And here I can go ahead and refer at the top corner. You can see here, this is my region name. And if you see, this is the drop down options. You can select that and you will see what are the total regions are available. What I have to do it, I have to just click on here with the options to be referred. Let's say this case, I'll be just selecting here. And once you select this one, it will ask you to just refer the manage regions. Click on the manage regions, then it gets opened like this. So what you have to note of it, this is what it is referred, the manage regions. Once you refer this manage regions, and you have listed all the regions. So based on the country specific, they are categorized the name of the regions like an example. I'm talking about India South. That's a Hyderabad location, and in India West, it's in Mumbai location. So that means in our India country point of view, we have two regions. So logically, it is given as a name of the country specific the, the terminology called as a regions. Now within the regions, what you have to note of it, the point to note here, I can go ahead and subscribe where I can store my services. So what here you supposed to say? So there are hundreds of services are available on each cloud region. That's the point to know. So you can go ahead and note that there are hundreds of services. Like you can go for here databases, networking, and you can say the developer services. You can go with the integration services. Like that, a lot of services, which is more than 100 plus services, will be available in each region. Now let's back to our discussion on how do you go ahead and select this region, what I have to refer, and what you have to you can say understand before selecting my region or before choosing my region, what all I need to consider before deciding what region I have to select. Number one, from the location point of view. Number two, from the data residency or compliance point of view. Number three, you have to remember service availability point of view. So these are three major reasons where we have to note before selecting or before choosing my region. So how the location will be, you can say the related to my regions. What exactly the location means when we are deciding with the region to be select. So the point here is, let's say example, I'll go with here. This is my, let's say I have placed my services here, and you can take any service. Let's say example, I'm just talking about some data. You can take anything. Just taking an example as data. So you are accessing the data from your user point of view. Let's say this is my user and he is accessing my data. What he is doing is accessing. So what is expectation here is from the user point of view. So user says that I need to get this data as soon as possible with a fast test. In between, there is no as much delay should be there. So what we call it as he is looking for, we can say, the lowest latency. That means in between wait should not be much more. It should be very, very negligible with the highest performance. That means it has to be with the fastest way to get the data or store the data. So based on that point of view, choose the region closest to your users. So here it has to be in the same country where you are accessing your data or service. So if your user location from the country point of view and your service where you prepared or stored as the regions, that is the same place, that would be a little bit faster. And in between the latency would be very negligible. And from that point of view, if you noted, that is we call from the based on the location point of view, you have to think of choosing your region. That's the point number one. Let's understand about second point. What is my second point to note of it before going ahead with it, choosing my region is a data residency and compliance point of view. So your country, like not just your, maybe your many countries are strict data residency requirement. That means you need to make sure that your country data should be there in your country only. So for that point of view, if you have any compliance regulations, in that case, you should keep your data within the same region or within the same country. So that point of view, you have to note of it. Let's say example, the India as a country, and we wanted to keep our data within India itself. So my regulatory point of view, I need to follow the compliance. To follow the compliance, I need to keep my data within the India, and since I need to select India-based regions only. Or an example, if the India agree with the other country so that they are mutually having a service level agreement where the data will be protected and data will be maintained as expected. In that case, we can keep even A data in India region and B data in my different country region. So that if something disaster happens, so still we have a data in the other point. So that means here service availability point of view. What you have to think? You have to make sure that you need to remember regulatory compliance has to be followed, plus keep it in a such a region so that even though the disaster happens, you will not lose the data. So from that point of view, you have to select or choose the region accordingly. So these are 3 points you have to first consider before going ahead choosing your region. That's it. This is a point to note in this architecture discussion. Let's try to go ahead and note of it the second point. What do you mean by availability domain? Short form is for AD. So here, what you have to note is within the region, we call it within the region, you have multiple availability domain. Not necessary, there are 3 availability domain, minimum 1. And the availability domain is other one, it's a data center. So within my region, I can have a one data center or I can have multiple data centers. What you have to note of it, in case if you are planning for high availability, you can say the design, make sure that your data present in a place, an example in the availability domain 1, AD1, your replicated data, your same data, maybe it is supposed to be placed in the different availability domain. Reason behind, if there is a availability domain is not working, not having the accessibility part, you will not lose the data because you have an unavailability domain where you have still access the data. So from that point of view, the each availability domain are isolated. Let's say example, they are isolated. That means they are not in the same place, they are a different place. Physically, they are not in the same place. We call it as a physical infrastructure, not shared. So they are different data centers. physically they are isolated or they are different. So hence the one failure will not impact on the other failure or other side. So one availability domain failure will not impact on the another availability domain. From that point of view, you have to note they have given within the region we have a availability domain. So let's say example. Let's see some example here. Here we go. Availability domain example. I just prepared one of my service, which is I call it as a database. Here we go. And this is my one of the this is one of my database has been prepared. You can go ahead and check now. Here I have a RAG DB system, and it is there in my this US East region. This is completed. But when I started provisioning this part, maybe just an example, you can see here while provisioning, while preparing, I have noted here my this is a point to note. Right now we are discussing this is my region and this is my resource which I am just preparing. And this resource this is what I said here, the DB system. It is preparing on this availability domain. 80. One. So how many availability domain we have? There are three availability domain. So out of these three, I prepared this one machine in my first availability domain. If I'm planning for my disaster recovery solution, I should keep my disaster point of view. The another DB system should be in the different AD. Right now it is already selected AD1. You should go ahead and select the availability domain in the different. An example here. Let's think of it. This is the one. When I go with enabling my here, what I said here, if in case I'm preparing my data, an example. Okay, so I have now consider this is my partner. We call it peer. Peer system is another word. It's a partner. So it's the same data will be maintained in other place to guard your data. In this case, it says that your region is you can say Ashburn, but your primary, which is the first copy, is present in this AD1. It's called availability domain 1. You should keep your DR, which is called data guard, or in disaster recovery point of view, keep it in different availability domain. This is what it is expected. So from the disaster recovery data guard point of view, you have to make sure that if the primary is in one availability domain in the same region, keep it your DR in the different availability domain. That's what it is looking in the availability point of view. Let's continue with the next one. Now here we have to discuss on the third point, fault domains. What is the fault domains? Now you have to again start with understanding what is the fault domains and how many fault domains we have. Within each availability domain, we have three fault domains, and they are logical data sets. You can see it's nothing but within the availability domain. So we have isolated with a separate hardwares. So your resource is placed in different FD so that single to avoid single point of failure. So now here your hardware 1, hardware 2, hardware 3, they are totally different, isolated. Even though they are in the same data center, but this will be in one hardware, this is another hardware, this is another hardware. Like this. An example, if you take some example, real point of view, if you are a TBA and you are looking for to keep your machines like a rack instances, you have to keep one instance in one fault domain and another instance machine in the another fault domain within availability domain. An example, we can say that within availability domain we have three fault domain. So based on that, I will be keeping one machine in one fault domain. It's a hardware isolated with another fault domain, which is again one more hardware. So that means there are two hardware. So if this fault domain hardware get messed up or a disaster happen, still we have a data on the fault domain. So say example here, let me show you the one which I prepared here from the fault domain point of view. If you take now this example here, what I did, I just prepared two nodes. You can go and see here, it is a two nodes, and here is my nodes. The nodes are the what? It's machines. So we prepared a two node for this database, and these are my two machines. And these machines are we prepared one machine in one fault domain, another machine in another fault domain. That means the fault domain says that if the hardware are isolated, so you have to remember one data center, but two different hardwares. Logically, it is divided. So this is by one hardware, this is by another hardware, but they are in the same data set. Otherwise, my availability domain is same, but my fault domains are different. This is we got AD1, fault domain 1, and fault domain 2. Now here you have to note of it. If I want to go with the further availability point of view, I'll go with your availability domain 2. Here I'll keep my DR. So here we can say again fault domain 1 and fault domain. So between these two, we have a DR setup. So this is what we can expect in the real time when you go with the availability point of view to prepare your machines or resources. From that, if you see here an example, let's take an example. To avoid a single point of failure, what we said that here, this is my initial, we call it here. This is my first set, we call it as primary. And this is my second set, we call it as a data card. Or this is my first application, and this is my, it's a mirror application. So in between, you have a guard. That means here it says. So that means your data will be placed in the single region. This is my single region here. But we have a different availability domain. Within the availability domain, we have fault domain 1, fault domain 2. This is first machine, this is second machine. If both are not working, still we have another place to access. The data is available in other place. So that is we call avoid single point of failure. Having a design in such a way that you are design your architecture in such a way, deploy the instances, same task, whatever you are working with the same task, you have to keep it in one place, and which is called maintaining the data in the one place. And later you can see that multiple, you can see the availability domain will help you to further isolate the data and plus maintaining your disaster to be handled to avoid a single point of failure. Let's continue. Now, overall, the explanation as of now, we said that there is a from the real time point of view. If you say this is my primary, this is in AD1, and you have to keep it your data card on the second availability domain. So this is the AD1, this is my AD2, as per the previous discussion. This is my AD1, this is my AD2, availability domain 1, availability domain 2. Finally, you have seen that we can prepare the data card accordingly. That's what we supposed to remember. High availability design point of view, you need to make sure that within the availability domain, the fault domain will help us to handle the single point of failure. And from the region, within the region, different availability domain will help you to handle the single point of failure. So here, each time what we are saying, this cross mark says that within the availability domain, we have a fault domains. If one fault domain is not working, still we have another fault domains. They are giving you high availability. This is called high availability design point of view we are discussing. If one is lost, still available. It's called still available. So what are those? It's a fault domain within availability domain. Similarly, within the region, we have a multiple availability domain. If this availability domain is not working, still we have another availability domain. Still we can say it's accessible availability. Now let's say if you pair the regions, one region data you pair it to another region, and if one region is not working, still you have another region to access. So this way you have to make sure that you have to design all circumstances to be handled. So all circumstances are the one avoiding single point of failure. It can be a fault domain failed. The availability domain has a multiple fault domain. That's take care of it. Within the region, if one availability domain is failed, you have to think of it. You should keep the data across the availability domain within the region. If the one entire availability domain is gone, entire region is gone, then you have to make sure that you have to keep the data across the regions. So this way you have to get the things to be configured in your OCI. That's it. You have to note those points. Now here, that's a point what I've been covered. So the basics to enter into a OCI entire journey, you should know that what are the terms referred as regions, availability domain, and fault domain. So if you still have any questions, you can contact us and you can contact to me. I'll help you out to make sure that to become expert in this OCI architecture. Thank you for watching this video. Take care. Bye bye.